Hopkins, the 10th president of Voorhees College, and today we are excited to observe the anniversary of Absalom Jones, who is recognized as the first African American priest of the Protestant Episcopal Church. Absalom Jones left a legacy that we all should strive for. Please enjoy this presentation and feel free to donate to the mission of Voorhees through the month of February.
Long before St. Philip's Episcopal Chapel was built in 1935, long before the birth of Voorhees founder Elizabeth Evelyn Wright in 1872, and even long before her mentor Booker T. Washington graced God's green earth in 1856. More than 600 miles north of Denmark, South Carolina, in Sussex County, Delaware, a little baby boy was born into slavery in 1746, who would defy the laws, natures, and norms of the society he entered the world into, and in doing so, would lay a foundational wellspring of faith and inspiration that still lasts and uplifts countless others to this very day. That boy of most unfortunate beginnings was Absalom Jones, but his faith in something greater than himself and his thirst for knowledge would lead him to risk the dangers of being a slave who could read. And he taught himself how to read as a teenager using the New Testament of the Bible and books he purchased by saving pennies given to him by the visitors to his master's home. At age 16, his family was broken apart, and he was sold to a store owner from Philadelphia. Jones worked for the owner during the day and was allowed to attend an all-black school run by Quakers at night. At 20, Jones married a fellow slave and through hard work bought her freedom. And in 1784, he was eventually able to buy his own freedom as well. Jones was an active member of St. George's Methodist Episcopal Church in Philadelphia and served as a lay minister for its black membership. In 1786, his friend Richard Allen joined Jones at the church, and the duo greatly increased the black membership. But this growth did not sit well with the white members of the congregation. The alarmed vestry decided to segregate blacks into an upstairs gallery without notifying them. When Jones, Allen, and others blacks showed up for church one Sunday, the vestry informed them that they had to move to the balcony. Jones and Allen stated that they would when they finished praying. Not wanting to wait, the ushers dragged Jones, Allen, and other blacks out of the church as they knelt in prayer. From the words of Richard Allen, meeting had begun, and they were nearly done singing, and just as we took seats, the elder said, "Let us pray." We had not long been on our knees before I heard considerable scuffling and low talking. I raised my head up and saw one of the trustees having hold of Reverend Absalom Jones, pulling him off of his knees and saying, "Must get up. You must not kneel here." Mr. Jones replied, "Wait until prayer is over." Mr. H.M. said, "No, you must get up now or I will call for aid and force you away." Mr. Jones said, "Wait until prayer is over and I will get up and trouble you no more." Infuriated by these actions, Absalom Jones and Richard Allen organized the Free African Society in 1787. It was the first organized Afro-American society, and Jones and Allen were elected overseers. Members of the society paid monthly dues for the benefit of those in need. The preamble, dated April 12, 1787, explains that the original intent of Allen and Jones was to form some kind of religious society for the people of their complexion whom they beheld with sorrow because of their irreligious and uncivilized state. Jones and Allen's organization was key in providing labor and support during the yellow fever epidemic of 1793, but much like in the church, they found racism rear its head as the free black community was accused of profiting off the epidemic. They published a pamphlet with eyewitness accounts refuting the false accusations. It became the first copyrighted pamphlet written by black authors in the nation's history. Titled A Narrative of the Proceedings of the Black People During the Late Awful Calamity in Philadelphia in the year 1793, it documented the racism and poor treatment that free African Americans experienced, even as they played a crucial role in combating the most serious epidemic of disease in the history of the still young nation. During this time, Jones and Allen continued advancing their religious and spiritual callings. In 1792, the Society began to build a church, and on July 17, 1794, the church was dedicated, making it the first black church in Philadelphia and one of the first in the country. But Richard Allen and a number of members withdrew from the African church as they disagreed with affiliating with the Episcopal Church over the Methodist Church. The segregation they had experienced from the Methodists at St. George's was inexcusable, and the majority of the members chose the Episcopal Church. The African Church applied for membership in the Episcopal Diocese of Pennsylvania on the following conditions. 1, that they be received as an organized body. 2, that they have control over their local affairs. And 3, that Absalom Jones be licensed as a lay reader and, if qualified, be ordained a minister. William White, Episcopal Bishop of Philadelphia, agreed to accept the group as an Episcopal parish, and St. Thomas African Episcopal Church was admitted into the diocese in October 1794. Jones served as the parish's lay reader until 1795, when Bishop White ordained Jones as a deacon. On September 21st, 1802, Jones was ordained a priest and served as the parish's rector. Despite the split in the African church, Jones and Allen continued to work together. They were among the founders of the African Masonic Lodge in Philadelphia in 1798. The two men also led the black community in petitioning the Pennsylvania state legislature for the abolition of slavery in 1799. In 1800, they sent a similar petition to the United States Congress. Jones was an earnest preacher. He denounced slavery and warned the oppressors to clean their hands of slaves. To him, God was the Father, who was always acting on behalf of the oppressed and distressed. But it was his constant visiting and mild manner that made him beloved by his own flock and by the community. St. Thomas Church grew to over 500 members during its first year. Known as the Black Bishop of the Episcopal Church, Jones was an example of persistent faith in God and in church as God's instrument. In 1816, Jones saw his friend Allen consecrated the first bishop of the newly formed African Methodist Episcopal Church. And in 1817, the two men were united again when they condemned the newly formed American Colonization Society, which encouraged freed slaves to return to Africa. 1 year later, Absalom Jones died in his home in Philadelphia on February 13, 1818. Absalom Jones left us his legacy, the striving for dignity, self-improvement, and autonomy from bondage. He is listed on the Episcopal calendar of saints and blessed under the date of his decease, February 13th, 1818. In the 1979 Book of Common Prayer, as Absalom Jones, priest. We all join Elizabeth Evelyn Wright as witness of Jones's journey from slave to Episcopal priest that threw sands of defiance in the face of racism, segregation, and bigotry that still exists today, as pointed out more than half a century ago by the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
I think it is one of the tragedies of our nation, one of the shameful tragedies, that 11 o'clock on Sunday morning is one of the most segregated hours, if not the most segregated hours in Christian America. I definitely think the Christian church should be integrated, and any church that stands against integration and that has a segregated body is standing against the spirit and the teachings of Jesus Christ, and it fails to be a true witness.
As witnesses of the life and labor of Absalom Jones, make it your mission to seek and encourage a better society for all mankind in our nation.
We certainly hope you enjoyed this special observance. Please assist our fundraising efforts and donate as we move to the next level of excellence at Voorhees College.